I'm regularly asked what it is I actually do. By you in the comments, by my friends, and even by my parents. The thing is, it's not an easy question to answer. Most of the TLDR team have relatively defined job roles. Our production team, Alex, Thomas, and Jan, handle the editing and animation of our main channel videos on TLDR Global, EU, and UK, with them also occasionally contributing to other merch projects, and Jan spending a lot of time working hard on the TLDR store and Too Long. Scarlett also makes up that team, with her focusing on podcasts, shorts, advertising, and thumbnails. While our journalists, that's Zach, Ben, Rory, Nadja, and Georgina, write the scripts and articles that are so core to our business, as well as hosting and appearing on podcasts. For me though, I'm what? A host? A manager? A fill-in for when jobs need doing? Well, kind of all of the above. So I spent the entirety of the last year tracking every minute of my time. And now, with 12 months of data logged, I've run the numbers and created what's kind of a Spotify Wrapped for my work life. A summary of why I'm tired all the time. So if you're interested, I'd like to share that with you. The most obvious thing I spend my time doing is what you're watching me do right now, hosting videos. However, despite it being the most visible part of my job, I only spend 85 hours, or about 11 work days, doing it in the last year. That's just 3.3% of my total working hours. Recording is actually a surprisingly fast process. Most days we'll record 2 or 3 videos, and normally Ben or I will host every video recorded in that day. Now that might sound like a lot, but it's generally more efficient for one person to handle all of them. Otherwise, there's duplicated friction costs from each person coordinating, preparing, and actually recording. So generally, it's easier for one person to tackle every recording needed in one day. When that's me, I tend to do all of them in one sitting, only briefly pausing between scripts, each of which take about 15 minutes to record. That's obviously longer than the runtime of the videos themselves, because I'm not perfect at reading. Sometimes have to retry a pronunciation, change the emphasis of a sentence, or whatever else. The other super visible thing I do each week is appear on podcasts, with me hosting our weekly show, The World Leader Leaderboard, a task that took up 68 hours last year, or 2.7% of my total working hours. Each episode takes about an hour to record, plus extra time to prepare and coordinate with the team before going into each recording session. So, if the time you actually see me on camera only accounts for about 6% of my effort, where's the other 94% going? Well, kind of astonishingly, 12.8% of my total time is spent designing the thumbnails for our videos, coming in at a staggering 322 hours, or just over 40 working days. Within the year we're discussing, we produced a total of 582 videos, and I made almost all of the thumbnails for those videos. In fact, to make matters worse, we run A/B testing on most of our videos, which means designing up to 3 thumbnails for each video. Now, sometimes those are 3 very similar thumbnails, but sometimes they're 3 very different ones. Now, I'm looking to reduce this time, with Scarlett taking over the design of all podcast thumbnails this year, as well as being in the process of taking on main channel thumbnails too, something which should buy me back a ton of time. Honestly, the only reason I still do them is because I got into a habit of making thumbnails almost 9 years ago when TLDR started, and with everyone else so busy, I've never really had anyone to hand them over to before. So I'm very happy to pass them into Scarlett's, honestly, more capable hands. That's not the only design task I spend a lot of time on though. Last year, I spent 219 hours designing our magazine Too Long, and 205 hours on our coffee table book Assembly Required. I head up design for all of our physical products, and it's actually one of the things I enjoy doing the most. So much of what we do is so speedy and ephemeral, so it's exciting to spend much longer on something like these projects, and polish them until they become something we're really proud of. And together, these design tasks took up 12.9% of my time last year. Accompanying those tasks are various admin jobs associated with Too Long and Assembly Required, be that coordinating with the writers, preparing the documents, or writing some of the text that goes inside the magazines. These tasks took 76.3 hours of my time last year, or 3% of my total time. By the way, if you didn't know, Too Long is our regular magazine where each issue we examine a series of stories and topics which either wouldn't work on YouTube or where YouTube doesn't really allow us enough time to discuss them. The next issue, our 6th, is titled The New Middle East, and in it we run through each country in the region and discuss their future, before reflecting on how recent events have reshaped the Middle East forever. We obviously talk about the Middle East a lot in our videos, but this is our most zoomed out, detailed and thought through coverage yet, truly outlining how we see this region re-emerging. It's not just the Middle East either, there's also sections dedicated to the rest of the world too, including a summary of all of the major elections that happened this year, the rise of the UK's new left, and how to fix the European economy with YouTube's money and macro. If you want to know more, you can head to toolong.news or click the link in the description. If you subscribe, you'll get 20% off every copy as long as you stay subscribed. But for a limited time, you can also get our best ever offer. That's £5 off your first copy by using code BLACKFRIDAY at checkout. And doing so will make your first copy as cheap as £2.99. Anyway, the next big chunk of my time is spent attending events, with me attending COP29, the UN Plastic Summit, Davos, Nebula's annual creator retreat, YouTube's News Summit and News Working Group, and the Conservative Party conference within the last year. Together, these added up to 241.5 hours, or 9.6% of my time. Then add to that the time it actually takes to get to these events, with travel taking up 4.7% of my time, obviously only counting long distance and international travel here, not my commute to and from the office. That obviously doesn't include my personal holidays too. I had the same holiday allowance as the rest of the TLDR team, which, including bank holidays, took up 12% of my year. The next most common task for me, taking up 235 hours, or 29.5 work days, was animating and editing videos. This was actually my original job at TLDR. I was never the best writer, so as soon as I brought other people onto the team, I immediately handed over all of the actual journalism to the experts. For a long time though, I continued to effectively work in the production team, making videos every day. Now this has obviously slowed down recently, but when we need extra help with animation or production, I do sometimes step in, with me actually making all of our recent election videos in the new election style, which hopefully you like. The only other tasks taking up a decent chunk of my time are various administrative tasks. Combined, these took up 333 hours, or about 13.2% of my year. This time includes the day-to-day running of our office, handling the technical side of our studio and coordinating our new studio upgrade, general business administration, email, accounting, and truly uncategorizable miscellaneous tasks. There's still over 16% of my time which is unaccounted for. So where did that go? Well, 4.1% was spent in internal TLDR meetings, and 1.5% spent in meetings with Nebula, as well as various associated Nebula tasks. Those internal meetings include things like our weekly content review, where we discuss the previous week's output, our monthly strategy meetings, meetings about specific projects, like podcasts or Too Long, as well as other generic business or personnel meetings. Speaking of Nebula, 3.4% of my time was spent handling adverts and the promotional sections of our videos, as well as on sponsor management. Although most of this has now been handed over to Scarlett, so this is much less time than it used to take me in previous years. On top of that, 4.3% of my time was spent on the TLDR store. While some of that was spent managing the digital and back-end side of things, most of it was spent actually handling physical products and packing orders for all of you guys. I don't know if many people actually realize this, but we handle all of that internally. And that's partly to save us a bit of money, partly so we can ensure that we do the best job for you possible, and partly because it's sometimes nice to take a break away from all of that other stuff to just put some magazines in envelopes for a while. Then 2% of my time was spent on designing and creating other merch items, like our magnet collection, posters, or coloring book. 0.6% of my time was spent doing company-wide graphic design tasks, including our new logo and title sequence. 0.5% of my time was spent handling the upload and back-end admin of YouTube, and very fortunately, just 0.4% of my time was spent on sick leave due to minor illness. All of that adds up to 2,528 hours of work, or 316 workdays. At first glance, that might not sound like enough, but with weekends taken off, it's actually 55 days more than I'm officially contracted to do. Now, this isn't in any way to glamorize some kind of entrepreneur grindset mentality, nor is it reflective of the broader work patterns of our team. and I am paid overtime for the extra work I do, so please don't feel too sorry for me. But this is a job I truly enjoy doing, at least most of the time, so I do feel really lucky that you helped make it happen. Now, I know I already told you about Too Long, but we also have another project I'd like to mention too. One I spent quite a lot of time on this year, and it's called Assembly Required. That's our new 300-page coffee table book that highlights 27 of the world's most beautiful parliament buildings. From the classics like the British Parliament in Westminster, to the US Capitol or the Hungarian Parliament, to ones you might not expect, like New Zealand, Bhutan or Bangladesh. For each parliament, we don't just show beautiful photos of these actually incredible buildings. We also tell you the stories behind the buildings, both through passages written by our team, as well as through detailed custom-designed floor plans and diagrams. We really did spend a long time on this too. We spent ages digging into the stories of parliament buildings all around the world, before narrowing it down to just the most interesting and beautiful buildings, writing tens of thousands of words to tell you their stories. We've also made both desk and wall calendars based on Assembly Required too, allowing you to experience these beautiful buildings year-round. Both are also double-sided, providing tons of bonus images for you to enjoy. If you're interested, you can click the link in the description to find out more. Plus, there's a whole load of bundles available if you want a good deal.